Well, you're listening to BBC Radio London. I'm Trisha Goddard, sitting in for Tim Arthur. And in this part of the show, as usual, we'll be talking all things health and wellness. Now, remember, if you have any questions for my next guest, and I'm sure you will have when you hear her, do give us a call. The number is 0800 731 2000. That's 0800 731 2000. Or remember, you can text us 81333. Remember to start your message with the word London. So let me get on and welcome Catherine Rogers to the show. Now, Catherine is the author of Gut Well Soon, a practical guide to a healthier body and a happier mind. So, Catherine, good morning. Very warm welcome. Thank you for joining us. Now, the first question that sprung to mind is, you're not from, quote unquote, the usual background. You've got a really interesting background that's led you to food in almost a roundabout way. First, just give us a brief idea of your background.
So, my background is in mental health.
Right.
And what I found is when I did, mental health is generally done by talking therapies and drugs.
Yes.
And when I, with my patients or clients, also did food, exercise, sleep, their recovery was so much better. And so that led me to research why, and then I realised it applies to every area of health.
Well, let me wind that back, because that's really fascinating. So you're saying when you saw clients, was it that you took note that they, I don't know, ate badly, or?
Should I give you an example?
Yes, do.
Okay. So I was working with students, and there was one student who was a mature student. He got himself to university through very adverse circumstances, but massively depressed. So very high up on a scale that's measured in the NHS. But what I knew was he wasn't sleeping well. He was eating a lot of white food.
Like what?
Well, a lot of
pasta
white
bread.
Yeah, well, pasta bread, and a lot of cakes, and you're almost not allowed to do this. But I sort of paused the proceedings. I was like, hang about. If you get up, just walk for half an hour. Okay, so you don't have to have breakfast, but you have to go into your university and have your lunch and your dinner. No white food. A lot of resistance.
So like more vegetables?
Just veg and meat, or don't eat meat, veg and some sort of protein.
Not stodge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was actually suicidal, so it was serious stuff. We were watching him really carefully. And it took 3 weeks of a lot of persuading, and I used CBT and used behaviour. Anyway, on the 4th week, he'd dropped dramatically in terms of how bad his scores were. And he just said, I got this freedom through just avoiding. It was very simple instructions, not like and it really worked for him.
So is that like a lot of people would say, I'm sure a lot of our listeners understand, when they feel a bit down, they tend to go for that stodgy food?
Yeah,
it doesn't really help, does it?
Yeah, because it hits the pleasure spots, it makes you feel better, it gives you that sugar burst. But what happens, an hour later, you want some more.
And the cycle goes on
and it's
on
like
and on.
It's a roller coaster.
So most people would not connect how you feel with what you eat. We do it the other way round. We reward ourselves with chocolate. But are you saying that we can actually alter our mood?
Absolutely. That's the book has, every chapter has 70 references, and there's 2 on mental health. The gut-brain axis is irrefutable. The research that's been done on what we eat affects our mood is there. And if you eat better, you'll feel better.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, you use the example of a uni student. Now, uni students, as we know with mental health, onset of mental illness tends to happen around that same age of uni. And uni students typically eat junk.
Yeah.
And it's a very stressful time of their lives. And so, with you, and you've got a daughter as well.
Yeah, I've got a son and 2 daughters.
So with your kids, how, they must have asked you about food and what have you. Did you learn a lot as we mothers do?
Yeah, it did. It depends on the situation. Sometimes you get some pushback, and I didn't always force it, but I just did it by example. And now they just do it naturally.
And what is it that they do that's natural?
Well, they always have protein and fat in every meal, and wouldn't necessarily have a lot of carbs. But if they feel like they need to have more energy, maybe they would. But for example, I also work with a family support group where people are on the food bank, so they very low income. And one of the things that we did was they were saying, "Oh, I can't afford it, Catherine." You know, all this stuff you're talking about, no white food. I said, right, go down to the local market. I live in Hyderabad. Go down to the local market and get some of the veg. And veg has carbs in it, but they're great carbs. They feed your bacteria, because what you need to do is you can have a lot of things that are easily digestible, like donuts and bread and all that sort of thing. But what you need to eat to feed your gut bacteria to help your brain is things that aren't easily digestible but are digested by the bacteria.
Things like
vegetables.
All vegetables?
All vegetables, yeah.
And you mentioned fat before. Now, fat has got a very bad rap over the years, but you talk... what's a good fat and what's a bad fat?
Well, there's trans fat, which is in sort of processed foods,
cakes and things like that.
It's not good. But other fat, saturated fat. There's now there's a whole area of medicine at the moment where they're saying it's not the devil they've made it out to be.
Oh.
Obviously, you wouldn't eat enormous amounts, but you don't avoid it. You shouldn't be avoiding fat. Fat will make you feel full, which means you won't eat the carbs, and the carbs are the reason we've got diabetes, obesity, all that sort of thing, mental health. And what I've done is I didn't just write a book because I just felt it was just words. I've designed a program called Reset Your Gut Health, where you can literally log on and say how you eat. You can say you're a vegan who doesn't eat celery, or a meat eater who doesn't eat chicken. It's really simple. And then you say what your health condition, and it could be belly fat, it could be diabetes, obesity. We've had 7 programs checked out by dietitians, nutritionists, and it will give you 4 weeks worth of recipes that are appropriate to your health condition and your food preference. There's no guessing. And it's not that you have to do it for 4 weeks. It just gives you those guidelines. So if you're depressed and you get migraines, you can say, I'm a vegetarian who doesn't eat celery. I'm depressed and I've got migraines.
Hang on, so you're saying you can actually alleviate the symptoms of migraines through your diet?
Yeah, well, I suffered from migraines since the age of
14. So what's bad for a migraine sufferer?
Well, it's multifactorial, but a lot of foods that are inflammatory, like sugar, that will spike your blood sugar, and I know because I love chocolate.
But what about dark chocolate?
Yeah, you could get dark chocolate. That's fine. It's not as much sugar in it. Yeah. No, actually, I do eat dark chocolate. But some people say chocolate in itself will set off a migraine. But inflammatory foods, which are things like trans fat and sugar, if you avoid them, I found my rate of migraines went down. And then if I got good sleep and I did, half an hour exercise, just a simple walking, it just lifted the pressure on the body.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of being outside and walking for mental health. And all the studies have shown that helps. Now, you mentioned you've got a daughter. And with women, that inverted commas time of the month, can you alleviate the symptoms of things like that, like menopause and all of those things, through what you eat?
Yeah, in fact, on the Reset Your Gut Health, we have a menopause 4-week program for exactly that. And what it does is it aims to make you feel more full, so you don't get tempted by the things with sugar.
So you're saying that eating... See, I find it so hard to cut out sugar. Is there that old adage of a little of what you fancy?
Yes, I mean, 80-20. But if you've got an extreme... 80-20. If you've got an extreme condition, you need to start the process. Do something like that for 4 weeks, or eat well, and then go back to your 80-20. But give your gut bacteria, which sort give them a break for a little while, and then go back to the 80-20.
What about things like memory? I mean,
gosh, that's such an interesting subject.
Can it be affected by food?
We've all met cancer survivors, haven't we?
Well, I'm one, yeah.
Okay, but we haven't all met dementia survivors. But there's an amazing story, I don't know if I've got time to tell it, but someone who treated premature babies who obviously needed their brains to develop. She had, her husband got dementia. She was a doctor, 65-year-old doctor in America. She thought, had this moment, if I'm treating these premature babies to develop their brains, why don't I do it for my husband?
Right.
Reversed his dementia.
What, through diet?
Through diet, through things like B12, MCT oil, coconut oil. It's a strict protocol. But to answer your question, she then did it with other patients. The drug companies weren't happy.
No, they didn't.
But just this year, the research has taken it up and reversed 100 cases of dementia through this protocol, which we're putting on the website.
So that's, if you like, it's one end of the continuum. But for getting older, are you saying that almost what you eat can determine how you age mentally?
We are what we eat. Yeah.
Ah, so is it? Everyone's like, oh, they're going to tell me not to eat cakes, sugar.
Yeah, but if you're going out for your older granddaughter's birthday party, of course you eat the cake.
Right, but you just don't have it every single day.
You go to the pub and you have it, but it's just a question of you are what you eat, and I would always encourage 80-20.
So 80% of the time eat what eat is. Now I've got to ask you this: everywhere you go, there's gluten-free this, gluten-free that, gluten-free this. What is it with the? I thought it was only.
Don't buy the gluten-free stuff with the sugar in it.
Sometimes it's really, when you look at the actual contents, because I don't eat meat, so I'm always reading labels, and I'm not very good with dairy, as many people of colour and Asian people aren't. So I'm always reading labels. And sometimes this gluten-free stuff is really...
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of evidence that it can irritate the gut, and then you might get something called leaky gut, which means that you don't digest things as well. I think generally people know, if you're in tune with your body, if you have 2 bread rolls before you have your meal,
right,
and you feel uncomfortable, then it doesn't do well for your gut.
Yeah.
And there's lots of alternatives.
But is it just a marketing thing?
A lot of the products are, but the actual thing about gluten is, years ago our wheat used to blow in the wind, and it was very tall and whisk-like. Now it's quite solid, and it's got a different protein in it. There's an amazing book about the evidence around why the protein in our bread has changed.
Right.
It's called the grain brain.
Right.
So gluten is a difficult one because it doesn't affect everyone.
No, it doesn't. But someone somewhere has decided that this is the new thing, and it's just
marketing people have, but that doesn't mean to say it's a non-issue.
Because I remember when fat free came out, and then we started to.
But that was definitely the
fat free.
I mean, how ridiculous! Your brain is so much of your brain is fat. You need fat,
right?
And fat won't make you fat.
And fat free is like, what kind of fat though?
Oh, well, it depends on the manufacturer, and mostly fat free has a lot of sugar. So if you're buying fat free yogurt, don't buy full fat yogurt.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
But I mean, what do I have? No, I do tend to very occasionally. I can handle yogurt, and I love ice cream, but I can't tolerate it, so I have frozen yogurt instead. But I seem to be able to tolerate that. I don't understand why, but yeah, and they make me feel happy because I like sweet things. I'm talking to Catherine Rogers, author of Gut Well Soon. If you've got any questions for her, do give us a call. We've been talking gut health with Catherine Rogers. And Catherine, I'm sure people are going to be fascinated and wanting to know more news. Number one, we're talking about the book. Where can people buy your book?
You can get it on Amazon and good independent bookstores.
Right, and just remind people of the title.
It's Gut Well Soon.
Gut Well Soon.
A pun on Get Well Soon.
It's and a brilliant one of that. And on social media?
It's actually Reset Your Gut.
Right.
And the website to get the 4-week program is Reset Your Health.
Okay, so so if people want to know more information,
and they can always email me, which is on the Reset Your Health. I mean, if they've got questions.
And would you say, as a final message, it's the 80-20 rule that's most important?
Yes, and avoid white foods, have more protein, fat, and veg on your plate, because you still get carbs from veg.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's a wealth of knowledge, and you've heard. If you want to find out more, you know where to go. Thank you very much indeed, Catherine.
Thank you.